What would you do without any chance of failure? Gotta love that question because it immediately gets her fantasizing, it gets her into her emotions, it gets her feeling good. And what happens when women feel good? They attribute it to you. Today, I am going to give you 7 conversational weapons that flip her attraction on fast. I'm talking really fast, boys. But all these are really good. They are field tested, Mark Singh approved. So let's get into it.
The Unapologetic Man Podcast.
Every day I get messages from guys that tell me, I don't know what to talk about with girls. That's why I don't approach them. Today, I am going to give you 7 conversational weapons that flip her attraction on fast. I'm talking really fast, boys. These are conversational topics to get the conversation going because what do dating coaches always tell you? They tell you to talk about interesting things, elicit emotions, make her laugh. And then they're like, say something funny that makes her laugh. And you're like, what do I say, you idiot? You always tell me to say something funny, but what exactly do I say? You always tell me to elicit emotions in her, get her talking, but what do I say? So few dating coaches actually tell you the how, and that's why I'm here, boys, and I always over-deliver. So not only am I going to give you 7, I'm going to give you a couple bonuses, and I'm saving the best for last, as I typically do, because I don't want you guys to blow out my analytics by clicking away too quickly. I am going to deliver the content, so make sure you stay until the end, boys. Let's get into it. All right. So let's assume that you're first opening her and you're talking to her. If you don't know how to open and how to get the conversation to stick, I've done many podcast episodes on it. One I highly suggest is called the OQQP Method, and that stands for open, question, pry. This is a really good way to finally get to the social hook point. And the social hook point, of course, is when she's invested in the conversation sticks. What we're going to do after that are a series of questions. We're going to tell stories. We're going to run gambits. But this is the way to keep her intrigued. And the last one is so good, boys. Really, you could just say the last one and have an entire conversation based on it. But all these are really good. They are field tested, Mark Singh approved. So let's get into it. All right. The first one is to ask her if she's ever done anything spontaneous, especially recently. So you'd say something to the effect of, so tell me, I'm curious about you. What's the most spontaneous thing you've done lately? Or what's the most reckless thing you've done lately? This gets her telling a story, and then you too should have a story on board to tell her about something reckless, spontaneous, or dangerous that you've done lately. This gets you guys relating and carries on the conversation. And again, you could do this pretty quickly. Once again, the conversation has stuck. Once you've gotten to that social hook point where she's invested in the conversation and you're looking for those conversational topics to talk about. All right, the next one is kind of based on cold reading where you make an assumption, you make a statement about her. So you say basically, I can tell that. So let's say she does tell you about something spontaneous. Let's say that she was just with her friend. They decided they want to go to Greece. So they flew out to Greece the next week. It was super spontaneous. What you could say there is an assumption about her, which is very attractive because it shows confidence. Only those people who are highly confident are willing to make assumptions about other people. And you can make a cold read, which is basically reading her personality based off this assumption. She's spontaneous. She goes and flies to Greece. And you would say something to the effect of, as I'm talking to you, I kind of get the feeling that you're not held down by like people's expectations or what you should or shouldn't do. You kind of live life on your own terms, don't you? She, of course, is going to agree with that because it's a compliment that's kind of wrapped up in a cold read. But making assumptions, making statements about girls sometimes are even better than asking questions. So instead of saying, do you like weather? You would instead say, when I look at you, I kind of feel like you're more like a beach person. I don't feel like you jive too much with the winter. Is that true? People like it when we make assumptions about them because it feels like we understand them. It feels like you're intuitive, and she feels noticed. She feels heard. All right, the next one, boys, is what's something you're proud of that most people wouldn't guess about you? And I want to ask you that same question. What's something that you're particularly proud of that most people wouldn't guess about you? I know right now you're kind of feeling a little bit excited. You're kind of getting in your emotions. You're maybe hyperextending your vagina a little bit because you're excited to talk about yourself. One thing that I'm pretty proud of that most people would know about me is I'm really good at juggling. I could juggle really well, like just huck balls everywhere and just be juggling them. It's not something a lot of people know about me, nor do a lot of people know that I could do a wheelie on my bike for as long as I want to. And if somebody asked me that, and if I was in a conversation and they didn't know me, that might get me talking about juggling or doing wheelies or some other stuff that I've done that you've done too that makes us interesting. I mean, you could feel excited about it already, right? If I asked you that question, it immediately gets us into our emotions because what's everybody's favorite topic? Everybody's favorite topic is themselves. Everybody's thinking of with them. It's an acronym that stands for what's in it for me. This is exactly what she's thinking when you go talk to her. She's immediately assessing what's in this for me? How am I going to have fun? And as I've talked about many times on this podcast, women are external validation seekers. They get their state from outside themselves. What they want a guy to do is lead them into a fun conversation that elicits emotions within them. Most guys, on the other hand, just ask, oh, where are you from? Where'd you go to college? Do you like breathing? Which completely bores them to tears. Whereas when you ask these emotionally charged questions, she gets into her emotions, thus getting attracted to you. The next one is to casually state something that you do not like. And this basically sets you up as the selector, sets up the fact that you have standards and lets her know that you don't just accept any girl. And I do this all the time, especially with people who are super drunk. So in nightclubs, bars, wherever I happen to be, if I see somebody who's super drunk, I may make a comment such as, typically I like drunk people because they're actually pretty fun, but it's like that level of drunkenness, I don't know, it kind of puts me off. I know in my case, I've never had a sip of alcohol in my entire life. And it's just kind of, I don't know, dude, when people get that loose, I don't know, it kind of makes me lose respect. How about you? So when they hear that, they immediately assess in you that you're confident enough to be discerning. You're confident enough to have standards. And she knows now that if she were to act a fool, getting completely inebriated to the point where her stomach falls out of her ass, she knows that you're not going to be attracted to that. When I was a bouncer, we used to have a joke. One dinosaur arm, which means her arm is in front of her and her hand is flappy in front of her, means she's pretty drunk. But two dinosaur arms, she's fucking inebriated. She needs to get thrown out. So I might say something like that. I might say the dinosaur arm joke and say, yeah, I kind of lose a little bit of attraction for girls when they're that way. You're not that way, are you? And that's something else you could say. So stating your standards, stating what you will and will not accept in the conversation is attractive, and it does boost attraction because, again, it shows you're confident enough to have standards. It shows that you're discerning. It shows you're not going to just take any girl who's going to let you inside her squish mitten. But in fact, you have standards. Standards are really important. All right, the next one, boys, is this. This is so awesome, and this is true. I like to talk about spiritual things with women because they eat it the fuck up. I've done many podcasts about spiritual things like messages in water, the human body's a lie detector, how plants react to our thoughts, and a bunch of other different things that show the woman that you're deeper than just a guy who, once again, is trying to get his red helmeted warrior into her squish mitten. So what I like to say to women, and I actually want to tell you guys this too, is that when you tell your body it's safe, and yes, I mean you're literally telling your body it's safe, and telling those body parts that are perhaps sick or perhaps body parts that you don't really like if you're like me and you get a little bit of extra fat on your midsection, or you're like me and you have really skinny wrists, instead of insulting that body part, which I know a lot of you guys do, and I've been guilty of doing it too, instead of insulting it, you tell the body part you love it and you appreciate it. What they found through studies, especially those people who have been sick, who have had some kind of malady or some kind of issue, when you love on a particular body part, healing goes up by as much as 50%, scientifically proven. When you tell girls these kinds of metaphysical realities, how your thoughts turn into things, how the universe is a big mirror, what you put out there comes back to you, and yes, even the way you talk to yourself and talk to your body physically changes your chemistry, changes your physiological state, and can actually increase healing, this creates a lot of attraction. Now, once again, you wouldn't open with this, hey, did you know that if you talk to your body in a nice way, it's going to heal by 50%? She's like, the f*** you talking about? But this is a good topic to throw in there once the conversation is stuck a little bit. For example, I might preface it by telling her about messages in water. How I just learned, and I always say this, steal this from me. I always say, oh my God, my friend Kelly, she was telling me a story about how, like, I guess water reacts to your thoughts. When you put an intention into water and you freeze it, it'll actually change shape depending on what you thought. So like love will be like a beautiful snowflake and hate will be this like asymmetrical piece of ice that just looks like shit. Isn't that crazy? And if she buys into that, then you could be like, you know what else she told me? And I actually saw this on a scientific study. When you talk to your body, loving it, telling it it's safe, and actually appreciating it, healing goes up by as much as 50%. So for example, if you're suffering from a malady, the worst thing you can do is attack that malady, or worse, attack the body part that's suffering from that malady. It instead needs your compassion, and that promotes healing. This, of course, is up to you, boys. Are you into the metaphysical stuff? Are you into the spirituality stuff? But going back to a podcast I recently recorded, spirituality is one of the biggest rizzes there is out there. When you talk about spirituality with women, they fucking love it. Now, I will say this. Maybe they loved it with me because I'm into it. And that's another tip too. Talk about what you're into. If you think that some of these wouldn't work for you, they wouldn't work for you. It's all about your belief. How much do you feel passionate about that which you're speaking of is going to dictate how much she buys into it. So if you're not into the spirituality thing, if you think it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, if you hate hippies and people who dodge soap and hug trees and play the harp at the hippie circle, then maybe don't talk about that kind of stuff. But I will say this spirituality thing, oh my God, girls buy that shit up. And once again, boys, it's a lot better than you asking her what high school she went to and then being like, oh, that's cool. I like your underwear. Can I please put it in my mouth? She's going to blow you out because of that. You need to build it up. You need to be interesting. You need to talk about things that elicit emotion. All right, my favorite one, boys, and I ask this to almost every girl I talk to. Perhaps you've heard this on this podcast before. What would you do without any chance of failure? God, I love that question because it immediately gets her fantasizing. It gets her into her emotions. It gets her feeling good. And what happens when women feel good? They attribute it to you, especially if you're the one that provoked those feelings inside of them. What would you do without any chance of failure? And one I wasn't going to even talk about today is, if you could travel anywhere right now, where would you go? If you could have lunch with anybody throughout history, who would it be and why? This alone will give you a 10-minute conversation, which, yes, might land you a phone number. All right, boys, and the final one, and this has been working so well. A group of us from the Brotherhood, my coaching program, have been field testing this one because one of us heard it, I think on Instagram or somewhere else a couple months ago, and we always corroborate stuff, right? Anything I teach you guys, especially inside my 3-month coaching program, has been field tested to a very deep level. Just like my online dating stuff, I test that shit with literally 13,000 messages sent. Well, this has been tested with about 25 of us, hand-selected veterans from the Brotherhood. We went out with this specific technique, and oh my hell, it works. What you do is you tell the girl to look around. You say, hey, real quick, look around right now and tell me who's fake, like who's the fakest person and who's authentic. Like look around right now. I already have an idea of who they are, but look around. And she's going to be like, I don't know, that girl over there, the drunk one that we were kind of talking about, she seems kind of fake. I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel bad for her. She feels like she really cares what people think of her, right? And she'll be like, yeah, she just seems really wanting attention. And I'm like, you're not that way, are you? And then if she says no, she's now selling herself to you, which is a huge attraction trigger. I've done podcasts about it. It's a central part of my program. Make girls qualify themselves to you. Make girls sell themselves to you. When they do that, it creates cognitive dissonance inside of them and they unconsciously get more attracted to you. So if you say, who's the least authentic person in this group? And she points out somebody, you say, you're not like that, are you? Bam, attraction goes up. Now, when she finds somebody authentic, you say, why do you think they're authentic? Like, what is it about them? Then what you say, and this is so fucking good. Then what you say is, you know what? I feel like you recognize that in that person. Like, let's say she points out a guy. You'd be like, I feel like you recognize that in him because you have that in yourself. Have you ever heard that? You can't really recognize good in another person unless you have it in yourself. Game recognizes game, wisdom recognizes wisdom, and authenticity recognizes authenticity. Do you resonate with that? And of course, she's going to say yes, because it's a compliment to her. Everybody wants to talk about themselves. Everybody wants to bring it back to themselves, including her. This gets attraction almost like a secret weapon. So you say, look around, who's authentic, who isn't authentic. A couple other reasons this is effective. First of all, it's a pattern interrupt. I've been discussing how most guys ask boring ass questions, and that's why they don't get attraction. This interrupts the typical pattern of a conversation between a man and a woman. It's usually just between you two. Rarely do you look around and actually start discerning others, and that's why it interrupts the typical pattern of what she's used to when it comes to conversation. When you ask a woman to assess and discern about others, it actually puts her into a more selective, adult, mature kind of state and an analytical state, which she's going to be in if she's getting attracted to you. So what women do is when they're starting to get attracted to you, they automatically shift into this discerning, analyzing, thinking about you from a more kind of logical perspective, thinking, would my mom like him? What if my friends met him? What would they think? She's in that discerning kind of mentality. When you ask her to discern others, it flips her into that mentality. When she comes back to you, she'll probably automatically get more attracted to you because you put her into that state. The last reason this is really effective is because it creates an alliance. An alliance is something that I should probably do a podcast about because it's super effective to make women attracted to you, which is getting into cahoots with the girl, making an alliance with the girl against or in lieu of everybody else. So when we're talking and analyzing other people, we're actually a team, aren't we? We are an alliance working together. Subconsciously, when human beings team up, they automatically like the other person more. Have you ever had a person on your baseball or soccer team or basketball or swimming team, whatever it is that you did, you didn't really like the person outright, but since they were on your team, you started looking for reasons as to why you could like them. This is an alliance, is that you're almost like stuck with this person. You guys are working together. You have to work together. Therefore, you have to like that person more than you would were you not in an alliance. So this creates all those interesting things in female psychology, which once again is look around, tell me who's authentic and who isn't. It'll also lead into much more conversation. You guys can talk about how that guy is authentic. Then you could lead that into, I wonder why he's dressed like that. Have you ever dressed like that? Like, why does he laugh like that? And it leads into more conversational threads. How you used to dress like that. How you kind of act like that when you're feeling good. Maybe he got a raise. Why do you think he got a raise? Then you could take it into hypo stories, which is a hypothetical story about that guy. And I like to build people up, right? Like, I don't like to really rip on people. I may point out a girl's drunk and be like, yeah, I'm not really into that kind of thing. And if she says this person looks fake, I'm going to point out how that person's suffering and all they really want is acceptance. Perhaps the reason they really want acceptance is because maybe their mom or dad didn't approve of them. I feel really bad for that girl. If I meet her tonight, I'm going to be nice to her. Then when it comes to the guy who seemed really authentic, I'm going to build him up. So I'm always trying to angle it from a positive perspective. And the final thing you can do with this gambit is assess how she is. Is she going to completely rip on that girl because she's drunk? Is she going to not give this guy a lot of props because she's kind of butthurt and jealous about it? You're going to get a clue into her psychology and know more about her. These are really effective. Let's go over them again. And I have a funny bonus one that one of my coaches always does. I'm going to throw at you at the very end after I repeat them. First one is ask about the most spontaneous or slightly reckless thing she's ever done. The next one is to make a light, confident assumption about how she is, also known as a cold read. The next one is you ask her what's something you're proud of that most people wouldn't guess about you. Oh, you shot a ping pong ball out of your vagina across the room? Pretty impressive. Next one is when you tell your body that it's safe and that it's loved, it'll actually promote healing by 50%. Next one is what would you do without any chance of failure? And the final one, boys, is to have the woman look around the room and tell you who's authentic and who's completely fake. The last one, which my coach Austin does, and this goes into whether or not you vibe with this. This is how he is. This is his personality. So I always suggest he go with this. When he gets into an elevator and there's a cute girl in there, he's like, all right, everybody, let's get down to brass tacks. What's all your favorite dinosaur? and everybody laughs and tells their favorite dinosaur. It's the way he likes to break open conversations. Would I ever do that? Kind of depends on how I'm feeling. Maybe it wouldn't be my go-to, but he likes it because it works for him. So you need to use what really resonates with you, what goes with your personality, and what makes you laugh. So I gave you 7 or 8, 9, I don't know how many it was, but take the ones you feel good about, use them in your next conversation, and it is going to hook the conversation, get her into her emotions, and hopefully increase your chances of getting a phone number. Also, if you don't know what to open with, how to pry open the conversation and get to that hook point, go check out my podcast. It's called the OQQP Method. Oscar, Quebec, Papa Method. It's a really good method to get the conversation to stick. Then you can throw in some of these attraction building gambits to get the girl even more attracted to you. All right, gentlemen, I super appreciate you listening. I drop podcast every Tuesday, so please stay tuned for the next one, and I will see you in the next episode. What is up, brother? Just wanted to thank you sincerely for watching this episode. If you've gotten any value whatsoever out of my content, the single best way to help me is to like, comment, subscribe, leave me a review. You have no idea how much that helps me. Also, if you're struggling with women and you want to talk to me personally about how I can help you achieve your goals with women, sign up for my 3-month coaching program below and you and I will talk. Join us in the Unapologetic Army.